we got our early look at the Cal offense. So I think now would be a great time to switch gears a little bit and look at the other side of the ball, the Cal defense. I think that looking, from an outsider's perspective at this Cal program, a lot of people find the source for optimism on the defensive side of the ball. I know that Cal's secondary was a talking point as maybe a bigger strength for them after last season. So let's kind of dive into this defense and then take a look at maybe how they stack up with the Oregon offense, which has been very underwhelming so far through 5 games for the Ducks.
Yeah, actually, Cal has survived on its defense the past 3 years under Wilcox, who's very much a defensive coach. But this year, the defense has not been very good. The offense has finally been decent. They've been moving the ball much better than they have in the previous couple of years, but the defense has really taken a step down, and it's really pass defense. A lot of it is they're not getting a good pass rush, but the secondary, which really has been a strength, they have 3 guys in the pros from their secondary just a couple of years ago, and now the secondary has really had struggles. They've had a lot of pass interferences. They're not playing the ball in the air very well. They don't seem to be in tune with the plan. The secondary has been a real problem. A lot of that is a product of not getting a good pass rush. They switched Koin Deng, who was the star against Oregon last year. He forced 2 fumbles in a game that I really thought Oregon looked like the better team, but Cal was able to get those turnovers at the important times. He won't. Well, I don't know for sure he won't be playing, but my guess is he won't be playing against Oregon. He hasn't played since the second game. They switched him from an inside linebacker to the outside, which is a more natural position for him since he's 6'6". He looks more like an outside linebacker. Hasn't made a big impact at that spot. Hasn't really had a chance to this year. He's only played a little more than 1 game. The real strength is the other outside linebacker, Cam Good, and he's been pretty good. He's been their best player, not surprisingly. They've had trouble at the inside linebacker spots. They play a 3-4 and they're 2, and the inside linebackers have always been the key to Cal's defensive success. They had Evan Weaver, they had Kanasic, who were both all Pac-12 players, and Deng was inside in past years, the 2 last years. But he's on the outside now, and the guys that they put on the inside now haven't really been the dominant factors that they expect to be at that position, and they've sort of been moving guys around in there and trying new guys. So how that position fares has a big impact on how Cal does on defense, which has not been nearly as good as it has been the previous 3 years.
So we're seeing some experimentation, on the Cal side as well. I know Oregon on their defense, they're looking to try to get some new names involved with how many injuries they've had to deal with. But I think with the Cal defense and kind of how Oregon lines up, I feel like, like we were talking about in the offensive preview for Cal, is Oregon looks like they're, like the stronger team on paper here. But they've been rotating a lot in their own. They've been rotating along that offensive line, particularly along the right side. Alex Forsyth missed the Stanford game with back spasms, so they saw that versatility come in handy when they had to slide Ryan Walkover to handle the center duties for that game. But we've seen a ton of rotation at the receiver spot as well, and I think that the offense has not really reached the ceiling that we think that it'll be capable of. They've looked great on the ground, but I think the source of excitement for Oregon was through the air. And I think with Anthony Brown, still looking like he's, I don't even know if I want to say finding his footing, because he's been in the system for a while now. And I feel like they kind of know what he has there, but he just hasn't been taking some of those deep shots. I know Garbers is a guy that is getting a little bit more comfortable with that. But I think with the Oregon offense and how the weapons have been utilized, maybe Cal has a little bit of a better shot here, seeing that Oregon's still trying to find their rhythm. And we don't know if offensive coordinator Joe Moorhead's going to be able to coach in this one.
Yeah. Does Anthony Brown, when things break down, is he pretty good at scrambling and finding either secondary receivers or running?
I think he definitely leans more on the run when the play breaks down. And I know that because the offensive line has been pretty solid for most of the year, but I don't think that they're as strong in pass protection as they'd maybe want to be at this point, which would ultimately allow Brown to sit in the pocket and allow some of those deeper routes to develop. So he's kind of a I definitely say he's more of a runner when it comes to the play breaking down. And he probably needs to work a little bit on keeping his eyes down the field and getting on the same page with those wideouts.
Yeah, a running quarterback who scrambles, that could be a problem for Cal. It's a problem for everybody, I guess, but it could be a problem for Cal, especially because their ability to contain in that kind of situation hasn't been real good.
Yeah, and I think with the read option at play, I think we've seen a lot of good good plays from the read option, and I think if Oregon's able to run the ball, hopefully it'll open things up a little bit more. But I think in large part we're starting to see teams able to stack the box because they don't really have to plan for a deep ball too much with Brown. But I think when you're talking about containment, maybe we could see Oregon get a little bit more involved here with some sweeps. Jalen Redd was great in that regard, and he's been doing pretty well in the past couple of games after that touchdown to Arizona. So, I mean, do you think that some of these sweep plays and just some opportunities for creativity could really help the Ducks against Cal?
Yeah, as long as they don't run him to Cam Good's side. If they run him to the other side, he's usually on the right side, not always, but usually he's on the right defensive side. So if they run those plays away from him, I think they'd have some success because they have the replacement for Dang is in there. Those guys it's Croto and the transfer from Texas, and they're okay, but they're not Coin Dang. And if they run them to that side, I think those guys might have trouble setting the edge on a play like that. If they run away from Cam Good's side, Cam is real good at defending those.
Yeah, let's stay there for a second. Cam Good is a name that I think people kind of gravitate towards when you're looking at this Cal team. What do you think he does particularly well, and what kind of player is Oregon having to game plan for here?
He's real good at penetrating the line, making penetration, and making plays in the backfield. He didn't go out. He didn't enter the draft because he doesn't really have a position in the NFL. He's an outside linebacker for Cal, but I don't think he would be a defensive end in the NFL, and I don't know whether he could be an outside linebacker in the pros. His pass coverage is so-so when he has to cover, which they try not to put him in pass coverage very often. So his best thing is just penetrating and making a play and setting the edge. Players don't get outside of him very often.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, hearing that, maybe the Ducks would be, better served to get him in some pass coverage situations. I think that the tight ends have been a bright spot for Oregon so far this year. You're looking at the true freshmen that have both been playing extensively in Maliki Matavao and Terrence Ferguson. I think Ferguson is a little bit more versatile when it comes to being a pass catcher, but they also have guys rotating in there like DJ Johnson, who's been playing both sides of the ball, and that's been pretty interesting to see for Oregon. I think he's probably better served to be on defense right now, but Cristobal said that you don't want to lose his value on offense.
Yeah, one thing I neglected to mention on Cal's offense is that their tight ends play a role as well. Jake Tungus has been an effective pass catcher, and they played a lot of two tight end stuff, as a lot of teams do.
Okay. Yeah, the tight ends are always an interesting position to watch. I love watching them because I feel like they can do a little bit of everything, run block, pass block, make plays in space, or just high point the ball. Let's see here. I know that we talked about Dang and how he's maybe looking like he probably isn't the most likely guy to go for this game. But I think one of the other players that you mentioned was nose guard Stanley McKenzie. And how he kind of got nicked up recently. So how do you think Cal has dealt with those injuries, and maybe how is his absence going to be that that much of a downgrade for Cal?
McKenzie's a big guy. He's like 340 pounds, and he played in the middle. And as nose guards and he's done for the season. He's not going to play the rest of the year. And he sort of anchors the defense. But Cal plays a lot of 2 down linemen and 4 linebackers and stuff like that. So I don't think that's that big a deal. I guess if Oregon just wanted to try to smash up up the middle with a running game, it might be an issue. But even then, I'm not so sure. Luke Beckett is their best defensive lineman. And their other one, J.H. Tellis, is a pretty decent defensive lineman, too. They're called defensive ends, but they're sort of almost like defensive tackles since it's a 3-man line. So I don't think his absence, McKenzie's absence, is a big factor because I think they play without him a lot anyway.
Okay, and so maybe we'll see the Ducks try to pound the rock a little bit up the middle. That kind of makes me think about how Oregon's looking at this uncertain situation at running back. Maybe making Travis Dye the kind of workhorse back that they've had in CJ Riddell. I think that the way that they used him with CJ really complemented each other quite well. But I think when Dye is asked to take 20 carries a game, I'm not sure that he can sustain that quite like CJ Riddell can, seeing that he is a little bit slighter with his frame, under 200 pounds. But I think that this is probably a good matchup for Oregon to have coming off the bye, seeing that they're still trying to figure out what that running back room looks like. Are they going to go with Trey Benson, who's coming off an injury last year? He had a touchdown against Stony Brook. Byron Cardwell came in against Stanford, and Seven McGee's looked great at times, and he just was like he's an explosive play waiting to happen. So maybe Cal will be a little bit more susceptible to the run in this one, which I think would ultimately serve Oregon pretty well.
Yeah, I think they might be. I mean, their main, although the middle guard sort of anchors things, it's really their inside linebackers that are their key run stoppers, and they haven't been as dominant as inside backers have been for Cal in recent years.
So we're going to be looking to see, at least I'm going to be looking to see in this one, can Oregon's offensive linemen get to that next level to get hands on those inside linebackers that you mentioned, Jake. Jackson Powers Johnson, an offensive lineman for Oregon that has really stepped up, especially with, like I said, with all the shifting that we've seen. Is he going to be a guy that proves to be too good to keep off the field? I think that Oregon's veteran presence on the offensive line kind of, I don't know, you see that and you wonder, how hard is it going to be for a guy to break into the fold there? But Alex Mirabal, the offensive line coach, has said, it's really not that hard to make those kind of decisions when you're seeing it on film. Can this guy put it on the film? Can he be consistent? And then, I think the experience part of that, decision doesn't weigh as much. So I think the offensive line is going to be crucial for Oregon. Can they show up against this Cal front and help them pound the ball so that they can open things up a little bit more in the passing game? Because it'll be interesting to see, how Jim Mastro draws this thing up, seeing that when he was calling plays last week, man, they were really, really run heavy.
Yeah, that might be an issue. Cal is real thin on the defensive line. They can't run a whole lot of guys in there. They keep their, especially Beckett and Tevis. They play a lot of snaps. So if they keep running, I don't know. That might be a factor come the fourth quarter.
All right, so we're kind of winding down our preview here on the Ducks Digest podcast, talking with Cal Sports Report publisher Jake Curtis. So Jake, obviously since you're around there, you kind of know the team, and it's sounding like the Ducks are looking like they could run away with this one, but that's what we got to play the game. Is there anything that you kind of wanted to touch more on that you think would maybe be worth talking about here in this matchup as we're looking at the Bears?
Well, they won last year because of takeaways, and obviously, turnovers are a big deal every week for every game. But, I think Cal has to get a few of those. They haven't gotten very many of those this year. And I think they need to produce some takeaways. I also think they need to do something in special teams. They've had a lot of trouble with extra points and place kicks, bad snaps and things like that over the past this year and last year as well. So being efficient with place kicks will be a big deal for Cal. They they can't waste any scoring opportunities against Oregon. And I think the special teams, if Remigio gets a big punt return, if they even force Oregon to punt, of course, I think that will be a big deal. I think they need to create some significant plays out of the special teams to have a shot. And Remigio is capable of doing that.
You mentioned turnovers, and the Ducks didn't get any turnovers a week ago against Stanford. So I think that'll be a big factor for Oregon as well. And that kind of goes to maybe touch a little bit on Bennett Williams, his absence, and kind of what the secondary looks like for Oregon long term, seeing that he's going to be gone for the year. So I think the turnovers are going to be big for both teams. And when you talk about can Cal even get Oregon to punt, we'll see if this is a game that Oregon's obviously favored in, and can they win by a significant margin. You talked about kind of the big picture implications of this game for Oregon and the Pac-12. If they're able to come to Autzen, off the bye week and run up the score on a team like this Cal team that they really should be able to, I think that'll maybe go a long way in seeing kind of what they can really bring to the table and, getting a little bit more credit back to their name. Because I think that, like you mentioned earlier, they can't really afford to lose a game if they still want to keep the playoff in their sights.
Yeah, I think this is a game where people are not looking so much at whether Cal or whether Oregon wins or loses, but how they look. And I think people would decide based on this game to a large extent how good Oregon is.
Absolutely. And I think a fun question to maybe end this one on, Jake. The Ducks and the Bears are set for a 7:30 kick on a Friday night. And, with those just factors at play, everyone wants to talk about Pac-12 After Dark, which, of course, is just the chaos that seems to come every week with West Coast football. How do you kind of view that and maybe the potential for chaos that we see with these Pac-12 matchups?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people criticize it because it's way after anybody in the East Coast can see these games. But I don't know. I sort of like it. I mean, I think people who really know what they're looking at can figure out what team looks good and what team doesn't. But there is a lot of chaos on these night games, and I don't know. Is it supposed to rain in Eugene on Friday? You may not know yet, but that adds just another element. Any kind of off-field situation, I think, always acts as a leveler, is a benefit to the underdog team because it sort of takes away the talent gap a little bit. I don't know. Do you know what the weather forecast is for Friday night yet?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any rain in the forecast there. The Oregon fans will say that it never rains in Autzen Stadium. So it poured during that Stony Brook game, actually delayed the kickoff. But I totally agree with what you're saying. That definitely is something that goes into Cal's favor. Obviously Oregon's used to the rain since it rains more in Oregon, but it kind of adds to that chaos factor that I think makes it a little bit more entertaining to see, how this one ultimately shakes out.
Yeah, I think bad conditions always favor the underdog. It just sort of levels things out a little bit. It shrinks the talent gap a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, I think that'll do it for our preview here on the Ducks Digest podcast. We're going to have preview content coming out all week, looking at Oregon players to watch, Cal players to watch, betting lines, how to watch the game. We're hearing from Mario Cristobal and other players throughout the week. So definitely stay tuned in ducksdigest.com and check out what we have going on there. But before we get out of here, Jake, where can people find more of you and your work?
We're at Cal. Shoot, I'm not good at this. We're at just Sports Illustrated, Cal Sports Report, or at my email, jakecurtis53@gmail.com, or at Twitter or Facebook.
All right. Right on. Well, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, Oregon Football Max Torres, kindly ask that you subscribe. Really helps me keep doing my thing, covering the Ducks and bringing you guys all the Oregon content that you want. It only takes a second out of your day, and it really goes a long way. So I just wanted to throw that out there. You can find more of me at ducksdigest.com, on Twitter at mtorresports there on your screen. And then we're on all of the other social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Ducks Digest. But that'll do it for this one. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.